It's your boy Rich Nice back once again. So today we're back on the C10 project. We're doing something that I neglected to do before I put this engine in here, which is the rear main seal, which is notorious for leaking on these things. And it involves removing your transmission, removing your flex plate, and then removing your the bolts that hold the rear main seal on. So we got a whole kit that comes with the plate, the seal, and all new gaskets and bolts to put this thing back in. So let me show you what I've done so far. I didn't want to bore you guys, so I went ahead and removed the drive shaft. I removed the cross member for the transmission. I also removed the transmission. Oh, let's see. As you can see, we got the transmission on the transmission jack, got our jack stands in place. This is your flywheel, and it has 6 bolts that hold it in. I've already taken those 6 bolts loose just to speed up time. So that's the last bolt, and then this plate will come off, and then your rear main seal is directly behind this plate up there. But we also are going to change, not how well y'all can see that, but right up here next to your oil pressure sensor is your cam position sensor, and there's a 10mm bolt that holds it in right up in here, right here. And this is your oil pressure sensor right here. Not how well y'all can see that, but anyway, we're gonna go ahead and put some light on it. So that gold thing would be your oil pressure sensor, and right next to it where the plug is, that would be your cam position sensor, and it's also known for leaking.
Dark side, light this bitch up.
All right, anyway, I got the bolts out. This thing is ready to come off. And if you notice that there is a hole right here in between the bolt holes, just make sure when you put this thing back together that you match these holes up. That way it goes back in the right place. Other than that, we'll get this thing taken off, and then we'll show you where the rear main seal and all the bolts that hold it in. So let's see if we can get this thing off. And just rock it back and forth, and it will come off just like that. All right, so this is your rear main seal. These are all the bolts that hold it in. I think these are 10mm. And then there's also 2 bolts right here at the very bottom. Not sure if y'all can see that, but down here, there's 2 bolts on both sides, 10mm. I think these may be 10 also. And then this whole plate will come off, and then we have a new one that we're going to put in this place. And usually this is the biggest culprit for leaking, along with your cam position sensor. So I will go ahead and start taking these loose, and then we'll be back. So that's how you get those bolts out. So this is your back cover plate for your rear main seal. It's a Dorman. That is the part number. And in the kit, it comes with, like I mentioned before, it comes with new bolts. It comes with the plate itself and the seal already installed. Now you can just get the seal, but I opted to go ahead and get everything because it was like 40 bucks. So why go through the trouble of trying to take a seal out and put a seal in when you can buy it for 40 bucks and it's already done. So I will go get the cam position sensor and I'll give you that part number. Gasket, it just fits on here like that. And then you can take your bolts and stick them through, and your bolts will actually help hold this gasket in place while you put this thing back in. So we'll get all this stuff done and then we'll go back underneath and go from there. We have our lube on our seal, so we'll be able to put this back in. We also have our bolts and our cover along with a little RTB in the corners, and we'll do the same thing in the corners up here, right there, and over there. So let me get this cam sensor back in and we'll be back. All right, it's time for our cover to go back on. And you want to hit this with some either the surface right here, you want to hit with some lube or some silicone spray. So let me go grab some silicone spray and we'll be back. Hit it with some lube, and that's just to help the seal slide over this back of the camshaft. And for the most part, this will go straight in. So I'll go ahead and get these tightened up and I'll show you the finished product. All right, we got our bolts in. I'm not going to bore you with these, but you should torque these down to, I believe it's 22 foot-pounds. These bottom bolts that go to the oil pan, these should be torqued down to 16 inch-pounds, and you want to just hand tighten these, and then you need to go ahead and tighten these up, because this will pull this whole plate down, and then you'll go ahead and tighten those up and then tighten the top up. All right, just make sure that you tighten these up in a star pattern just like you would your wheels. When you put your flex plate or your flywheel back on, you want to make sure you put some Loctite on those bolts. And again, you use a star pattern just like you would on your wheel. These will get torqued in 3 sequences. The first one will be I think 17, 37, and then 74. I could be wrong on that first one, but anyway, the 37 and 74 should be right for the last 2 sequences. Again, make sure you put Loctite on them. That way these don't back out. We got those bolts in, we got them torqued down like they're supposed to be, Loctite. So next, we can actually bolt the transmission back up, and then we can bolt the this flywheel back to the torque converter, which is that big blue thing right there. So I will go ahead and put this back in, and we'll be back. Put the transmission back in, got all our bell housing bolts, we got our torque converter bolts in. Just make sure when you're putting your torque converter bolts in, There is one hole that's on your flywheel that is a little oblong. So you want to start with that one first. That way all your bolts line up perfectly. If you don't start with that oblong hole and you try to put it in one of the other holes, there's a good chance that your bolts will not line up correctly. They'll be off left or right, and the other holes are not oblong, so they don't have any play with them. So just make sure you start with the oblong hole first, and you won't have any problems. Make sure you put your dipstick back in, you hook your transmission lines back up. Make sure you hook your all your wired connectors as far as your neutral safety switch if you have it, your transmission shift solenoid connectors, and your speedo. Make sure you hook all that back up and you should be good to go. As always, there's another thing done, another thing checked off, one more thing we fixed, so we're getting really close, on to the next thing. Until next time, as always, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.